everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio in 250-plus markets across the United States of America, and, of course, nationwide on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style. Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. Got some NBA games on the docket tonight. Washington and Charlotte. I'm watching that because I'm waiting for Bradley Beal to hit a shot in the fourth quarter. That's just me. But I'm a fan of his. I'm a fan of John Wall, but I want to explore why they can't get any big-name free agents to come there. I want to talk about Anthony Davis and what you believe the Boston Celtics should do in order to get their hands on them, or what the Cleveland Cavaliers should have done in order to get their hands on them, because any one of them get Anthony Davis, you're talking title contention, if not an NBA championship, as far as I'm concerned. That's something we'll get into today, along with the subject of the great Drew Brees, who is a free agent, who has been on the record stating he has no interest whatsoever in exploring free agency. He wants to come back and be with New Orleans. My whole point is not to bring up 50 Cent or anybody like that, but I don't see anything wrong with a little window shopping. I really, really don't. This window shopper mad at me. I think I know why. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with it. Zero. Absolutely not. So that's something that we'll talk about as the show progresses. But for now, it's time for some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. In light of what transpired a couple of nights ago, more than 36 hours ago, inside the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, CP3, Chris Paul, Trevor Ariza, James Harden, and most of the Houston Rockets players reportedly tried to storm the Los Angeles Clippers locker room to get at Austin Rivers and Blake Griffin before they were turned away. As I reported here yesterday on the show, Trevor Ariza was supposedly the ringleader. Chris Paul was right behind him. According to members of the Clippers organization, Chris Paul did nothing to stop the incident or to squash it at all. Obviously, the reports are indicating that Trevor Ariza was the aggressor, whereas James Harden and Trevor Ariza tried to restrain James Harden and CP3 tried to restrain Trevor Ariza. So depending on which story you believe, that's what's out there. I'm not here to judge anybody. I got a lot of love for James Harden. I think he's a superstar in this game. I think that this game should value him, and we all know how I feel about CP3 as a future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest point guards, miniature point guards to have ever played this game. Can't conduct yourself that way. You can't be the president of the Players Association remotely involved in a situation like that. That's my only knock against CP3. The fact that you have the title that you have. So it comes with an elevated level of responsibility that even if you did try to squash it, and even if you did try to play peacemaker, somehow, some way, reports got out to the contrary, and you can't even let that happen when you're the president of the Players Association. That's all. I have nothing else to say remotely negative about CP3. Because as far as I'm concerned, he's entitled to his emotions. Because being that great, you're the Los Angeles Clippers, you have to value him to a point where he doesn't want to turn down over $200 million from a billionaire Steve Ballmer because he doesn't want to play for the coach Doc Rivers or with his son, Austin Rivers. You just can't let that happen. You just can't let that happen. Having said all of that, that coupled with last night's incident in which Minnesota Timberwolves player Aaron Aflalo tried to throw a haymaker at a member of the Orlando Magic, that's a problem. That's an absolute problem. He's going to be suspended, no question about it, because of the punch that he threw. But there's a bigger question that comes into play here. And the bigger question is, does the NBA have an image problem? Let me tell y'all, I have a message. Even though it's on behalf of the NBA and it's on behalf of an abundance of folks who love the NBA, they will never say this. So I'm going to say this. All of you naysayers out there about the brand that is the NBA, you can go to hell. I'm going to say it again. Go to hell. Don't you come to me with no nonsense about the NBA. The most successful global brand in sports, as far as I'm concerned, filled with an abundance of model citizens who spend far more time than most people give credit for, being assets and contributors to their communities throughout this nation. I'll be damned if I'm going to sit up there and let somebody talk about the NBA in that way. You can go to hell. All of your phony, two-faced critics out there looking for an excuse to label these guys in a negative fashion. You got a lot of damn nerves. Does it get much better than LeBron James as a role model? How about Dwayne Wade? How about Carmelo Anthony and the work that he's been trying to do in Puerto Rico? And Tim Duncan, a former five-time champion and a retired player, by the way. Everywhere you turn with the NBA, players, coaches, and beyond, you have people being assets to one community after another. These players in the National Hockey League, even though they don't fight the way they used to, they can punch each other in the face, bloody each other's nose, try to stomp people out. Oh, that just comes with the sport. Major League Baseball, you got dugouts emptying and melees taking place. Oh, that's just baseball being baseball. That's America's pastime. We'll suspend them, but for the most part, they can police themselves. But far be it for an NBA player to get into something. All of a sudden, hey, Stephen A., do you think that we need to have the discussion about the problem in the NBA? I mean, Stephen A., I mean, come on, it really needs to be addressed. I mean, the violence. Really? Really? Do I have to really elocute my thoughts? Do you not comprehend? Is it an accident that the NBA is more than 70% black? Is it an accident that the NFL is about 70% black? That's why we got to sit up here and have these issues? Really? You got to be crazy. Y'all must be smoking something. I will not allow anybody to sit up there and try to label the NBA in a negative light. Stuff happens. Fights happen. We get all that. But don't you dare try to sit up there and say, and ain't really a problem. It's anger management issues. They really need to hash it out. Maybe they could go in a timeout corner. I mean, what is that? When y'all gonna say that about baseball players? I love how this issue, for example, and I'm gonna go here. I love how this issue, because listen, I was raised by 5 women. Not that the NBA has anything to do with this at all, what I'm about to bring up, but I'm trying to make a point. Remember how from Ray Rice to Ray McDonald to Greg Hardy on down, issues of domestic violence in the NFL. Fair enough. That stuff was going on in Major League Baseball. I remember stuff being chronicled about Bobby Cox, the former manager for the Atlanta Braves. You barely ever heard anything. And it was going on for years. And that's just one of several examples involving Major League Baseball. We ain't hear a word. But a black dude has bad breath and it's news. Nah, that's not happening on my watch. It's a new day. It's a new day. I don't know why the hell ESPN decided to give me this national radio show. You done messed up. Because I'm here to tell you something. I ain't taking that. The NBA and the NFL, their problems are bigger than nobody else's. You ain't tainting them that way. And there is no image problem with the NBA. You should be thankful you have the National Basketball Association with all the work that they do in the community, with all the good that they do. And I got news for you. I don't think Chris Paul is guilty of much. But even if he's guilty of misbehaving with this situation with the Los Angeles Clippers, you can't find most players, most professional athletes in history with a better record as a human being than that man. Have you met his parents? Do you know his brother? Do you know his family member? Have you seen his lovely wife and kids? Do you know what that man stands for? You will not get away with that. And by the way, Aaron Aflalo ain't a bad dude either. He just has to get suspended for what he did. Y'all got a lot of damn nerves. You really do. 888-729-3776 and 888-SAY-ESPN. That's just one item I'm getting into. The other item is the blasphemy. The outright blasphemy that is taking place in the streets of Pittsburgh. Minority owners without a controlling interest This is according to Mike Florio of Football Talk. Rob Centrone, Paul Evanson, Larry Paul, Stephen Paul, Bruce Rana, Paul Sams, John Stallworth, Benjamin Statler, Scott Swank, David Tepper, Thomas Dole, Peter Verschetti, Mike Wilkins. These are minority owners of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and evidently a few of them want Mike Tomlin fired. 116-16 record. Perpetual playoff team. Super Bowl champion, 2 Super Bowl appearances. Teams are better in the second half than they are in the first half of the season. I am willing to acknowledge that Mike Tomlin has underachieved, but that's only because of his standard. Not because of ours. If it ain't Bill Belichick, who the hell should have want Mike Tomlin as a coach? And these sniveling, weak minority owners with their sorry trifling. Oh, talking about getting rid of Mike Tomlin? Oh, man, I'm so happy to have this radio show. I'm so happy. 888-729-3776. It's 888-SAY-ESPN. In case you haven't noticed, I'm just getting started. That was Straight Talk Wireless nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I appreciate your business. But with or without you, the world is going to hear me this. You going to mess with Mike Tomlin? Oh, I can't wait.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Looking in the store, stand by. Window shopper. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, 888-729-3776 is always the number to call up. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Listen, under no circumstances am I trying to pretend that Mike Tomlin is flawless. He is not. There are mistakes that have been made along the way. There are things that have been left to be desired along the way. People want to bring up the onside kick. I personally didn't blame them for that, to be honest with you. I can understand why people should have insisted on it because it put Jacksonville in good field position. And so as a result, they were able to, kick a field goal and secure the win. But the bottom line is this. Mike Tomlin didn't believe in their defense because their defense was wet in the bed all afternoon long. And if I hold them accountable for anything, is that year after year after year, whether it's in their secondary or their ability to get at the quarterback, it's been a huge question marks continuously. And considering the fact that 4 Super Bowl titles were won with the steel curtain, Mean Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood and Mel Blount and Jack Lambert and Jack Ham and the crew, considering that all of that are things that led to Super Bowl championships. I mean, it's the Steel City. It's synonymous with the steel curtain. And that hasn't existed in the Mike Tomlin era. That's my beef. But having said all of that, other than Bill Belichick, there isn't a coach I'd rather have. He finds a way to win. They're relevant. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Talk about getting rid of them. Mike Tomlin has underachieved because of his own standards, which he and I have spoken about personally. Every time I've interviewed him, it's about that Super Bowl. And he's sick to his stomach that he comes up short. And yes, he's come up short every year since 2008, even though they went to the dance in 2010 before running into that bad man that Aaron Rodgers is. But it's not like this man deserves to lose his job. You got to be crazy. And go ahead, Steelers. Get rid of Mike Tomlin. It'll be about 25 to 27 other teams looking to hire him. You go right ahead. You fools. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. We're talking about that right now, plus the supposed image problems of the National Basketball Association. You people make me sick. Some of you just make me sick. Image problems. Please. Carlton and Tampa. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, man, I saw the Mike Tomlin segment to start off your first take show, and I just shake my head. I literally just shake my head. The last 4 years, he's 45-19. He's gone to the playoffs every single year. This despite the fact that he's got a a pass defense that has ranked in the bottom third of the league over those 4 years, okay? And whose fault is that? Might I suggest Kevin Colbert, the GM of the Steelers, has been there the whole time?
That's a good suggestion. That's a good one.
Defensive coordinator Keith Butler, who can't get these guys within 5 yards of a receiver half the time. Do you know in their 4 playoff losses the last 4 years, the other team has completed 63.4% of their passes, has 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, 8.05 yards per pass attempt. Off the charts. I mean, it's just been like a throw fest on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they had an opportunity, as did every other team in the NFL at the beginning of this 2017 year, to go get Malcolm Butler, who was a restricted free agent, and they neglected to do so. They could have gone and poached him from the Patriots, and they didn't, and they kept Mike Mitchell back there at safety. Of course, Butler plays cornerback,
right.
But they could have gotten rid of Mitchell and saved his decent-sized salary and gone out and shored up that pass defense, and they didn't do it, and Blake Bortles, of all people, throws for 8.2 yards per pass attempt and puts up 35 freaking points on the Pittsburgh defense. And now people want to fire Mike Tomlin? Are you kidding me?
38 points, not 35, 38 points.
Oh, you're right.
What up?
You're right, 38. And by the way, that onside kick was the right move. The 95% of the commentators have said, oh, that was dumb, including Max Kellerman. That was the exact right move. Pittsburgh, if they had executed it properly and Jacksonville recovers it, Jacksonville's going to get it on the 47 or 48-yard line of Pittsburgh. Oh, if they give up a first down, the game is over. So even if they got 8 yards starting on the 48, that would have put it into the 40. No way Jacksonville's going to try a 58-yard field goal. So the Steelers were getting it back. It's just that it was such a badly executed
like Thomas said.
And then there was a penalty. That's the only reason Jacksonville.
Hold on, Carlton. Just like Thomas said, if the guys had executed the way they were supposed to execute, we're not sitting here having this discussion. And he's absolutely right.
Exactly. So this is nonsense, but it just shows the absurd, superficial level of analysis that a lot of these yappers on sports media kick out day after day after day. Anybody who thinks Mike Tomlin should be fired from being a sports media analyst.
Well, I'm going to assume you're not talking about me, Carlton, because you call in here all the time. So thank you, buddy.
No, I know. You didn't call for his firing today.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Take it easy. Have a good day. Let's go to Micah in Cali. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. What's going on?
Stephen A., pleasure talking to you again, man. Thanks for taking my call.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on what you were talking about, KD and LeBron yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not ready to give KD the KD era, the best player in the NBA right now. Nobody is. What we're saying is, let's not change that. Nobody's saying that. What they're saying is, what if he wins the title this year and wreaks havoc doing it? What if KD, think about this for a second. I'll pose a question to you this way, Micah. What if KD, who's arguably a leading candidate for league MVP honors right now, what if Kevin Durant wins league MVP and wins the championship and wins NBA Finals MVP by averaging 35 on LeBron again? Then, yeah, I would have to give it to him.
There we go. That's where we are.
But LeBron right now, 15 seasons in the NBA, averaging, 28, 9, and 8.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anybody do this in the 15th year ever. So that's why I just got to keep LeBron at the top right
Okay. All right. Appreciate the call, Micah. Thank you so much.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
There's no image issue as it relates to the NBA. It's an incredible, global, iconic brand. You got that going on. You got a lot of guys that contribute a lot to the community. You got that going on. They don't deserve there being this perception of an image problem because stuff almost went down at the Staples Center the other night and Aaron Aflalo threw a haymaker at a member of the Orlando Magic last night. The pronunciation of his name is what I struggle with, which is why I did not say it. Let me say this. There's no image problem. If there's an image problem with the NBA, if there's an image problem with the NFL, there's an image problem with the NHL. There's an image problem with Major League Baseball. Unless you want to address that, don't come to me with that. Don't come to me with it. I ain't trying to hear it. They fight in the National Hockey League all the time. Y'all ain't saying anything. Dugouts empty and melees take place in Major League Baseball. Nobody says anything. They get to police themselves half the time and unapologetically look you in the face and tell you, you know what? Hey, we'll handle it ourselves. We police ourselves. They don't want an authority recognized as having dominion over them. And they've been successful in doing so because unlike the other sports, they have a strong players union who negotiate great collective bargaining agreements. Why? Because you got a lot of these players, by and large, who buffer themselves against the influence of owners because they save their money and they can hold out longer. Want to make that argument? I'm all ears. But that's about it. I don't want to hear this stuff about an image problem with the NBA. Not when you have these individuals who are stellar citizens and incredible contributors to their communities. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. I got to get to the subject of Mr. Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, for those of you who don't know, is this dude who's about 6'11", came out of Kentucky, won a national title, delivered the national title for the John Calipari at the University of Kentucky as a freshman, came into the draft as a number 1 overall pick. Ladies and gentlemen, he's an all-star. And for the second consecutive road game, he dropped 40-plus. In case you missed his game against the New York Knicks the other night, he showed up at Madison Square Garden, dropped 48 and 17 on the New York Knicks and Kristaps Porzingis. So much for that theory, that comparison. All you Kristaps Porzingis lovers, and I like him. But I told you he wasn't a number 1 option because I told you he was a little bit too frail, a little bit too thin. And once Carmelo Anthony left, he was going to see a lot of pressure, physical pressure applied to this brother, and he wasn't going to be ready for it. I tried to tell y'all. But y'all didn't want to listen. I said he's damn good, but he's no number 1 option. He ain't got it in him. You wouldn't listen. Well, Anthony Davis showed up the other night and reminded him of what a number 1 option is. By the way, after dropping 48 and 17 on the Knicks, Anthony Davis then went to TD Bank Garden in Boston, Massachusetts last night, playing against the number 1 seeded Boston Celtics with Kyrie Irving and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Al Horford and all of these boys. And what did Anthony Davis do? 25 in the first half. He finished with 45 and 16. Ladies and gentlemen, on this year, he is averaging 27 and 10 on 56% shooting. Anthony Davis is the real deal. I don't want to hear all of this Greek freak stuff. Okay? Because contrary to what you want to believe and contrary to what you want to recognize, I got news for y'all. For all of y'all out there that want to just dismiss Anthony Davis and act like he's just another player, he's been in the league forever, blah, blah, blah. No. Jonathan, Kat, could y'all do me a favor, please? Could y'all go out and get Anthony Davis's AARP card? Could you grab it, please? Because everybody talks about him like he's been around for ages. No, I want one of these young guys. Ben Simmons is 19 or 20 years old. The Greek Freak is 21, 22 years old. Oh, my God, Stephen, what are you talking about? Stop the presses. Stop the presses. Anthony Davis is about to retire. Did y'all hear the news? He's been around forever. He's some senior citizen that's beyond his prime, and his career is over. Did y'all hear the news? Anthony Davis is 24 years old. 24. He turns 25 March 11th. That's Anthony Davis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's in his 6th year. He's a senior citizen. Did you hear the news? Why would we pick Anthony Davis? My Lord. Oh my goodness. He's running out of time. He's 24. 24. And oh, by the way, since his rookie year, 20.8 points, 24.4, 24.3. Last year, he averaged 28 points, 11.8 rebounds on 50% shooting for the season. And this year, I'm sorry, guys, gals. Didn't you hear the news? He's slipping. He's only averaging 27.2 a game. By the way, the New Orleans Pelicans are 23-20. DeMarcus Cousins is his teammate. So is Jrue Holiday. And Anthony Davis is a big-time name because I got news for you. There should be 2 competitors going all out to get him. The Boston Celtics should do everything they can to get him. For 2 reasons. Number 1, getting him, even if it's for Al Horford and a Jason Tatum, getting Anthony Davis will make the Boston Celtics the favorites in the Eastern Conference. That's right, I said it. Anthony Davis with Kyrie Irving and Jaylen Brown and the rest of the Boston crew, please. Yes, it would. And if not this year, definitely next year once Gordon Hayward came back. And oh, by the way, if you don't get in Boston, but you land in Cleveland, if Anthony Davis somehow, some way were to land in Cleveland, because Kobe Altman, under pressure to get something done, by the way, with the Cavs being old and slow and allergic to playing defense, evidently, Anthony Davis would have landed in Cleveland. And I'm not advocating for Kevin. Look, I love Kevin Love. I think Kevin Love is a really good player that doesn't deserve it, doesn't get enough credit for what he brings to the table. I genuinely like Kevin Love. I really do. But if I got a chance to get Anthony Davis for Kevin Love and another player, you think I'm not doing it? Are you insane? And could you imagine LeBron James with Anthony Davis? Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. So much for the Golden State Warriors being the favorites, because I'm here to tell you, LeBron with Anthony Davis is a title. Without a doubt. He's that real. He is that real. And you want me to tell you what possibly could be standing in the way? LeBron James. LeBron James may very well have the keys to Anthony Davis landing in Cleveland. LeBron James may actually be the one preventing it from happening. How do I know this? I'll tell you in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people!
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A!
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Hey! I got soul! I'm super bad. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. It's presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620. Number to call up to the Stephen A. Smith Show, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Before I get back to the calls, if you are the Cleveland Cavaliers, here's what you need to understand. If you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, LeBron James has nothing against Isaiah Thomas or Jamie Crowder. He didn't know them, got respect for them, certainly has respect for their game. LeBron James, according to what I was told, didn't want the trade to take place. LeBron James told the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm ready to ride the water with the horses that I have, meaning Kyrie Irving. Don't trade him. Dan Gilbert's mentality was simple. I can get draft picks. I can get younger. I can position myself to compete into the future. Why should I just stand pat and do what you want to do when you're not willing to commit to me? So Dan Gilbert asked LeBron James to sign a 3 to 5 year deal, committing to the Cavaliers. LeBron refused to do so. And one of the reasons why there's dissension within the ranks right now is because you have players going out there to compete, but knowing they're not good enough to beat the Golden State Warriors. So essentially you're playing for runner-up. You have an owner who doesn't seem to care because he refuses to budge in terms of doing what's necessary to improve the team, to appease LeBron, because he believes he's appeased LeBron enough. They've had the highest payroll, or one of the top 2 highest payrolls, since LeBron has returned to Cleveland. They've been to the finals each year, but he's fulfilled his end of the bargain by giving LeBron what LeBron swears he needed. And now he's saying, I got to do all of this? I gotta really do all of this. I gotta make another sacrifice? Hell no. Hell no. So as a result of that, he's saying, yo, I'm not budging. I got a call from one of my boys yesterday telling me to look into it. I looked into it. I talked to the people who were necessary. This is what I found out. So you got a situation where there is this belief that Dan Gilbert is not interested in improving the team. The players know it. And a GM like Kobe Altman, who's a rookie executive, by the way, because he's a GM for the first time, and he's stuck in the middle because he's got to make things happen to improve the team, but he's got an owner like Dan Gilbert to work for. So I bring all of that up to crystallize this for you. Do you believe that Anthony Davis with LeBron James delivers you a championship? I believe it does. After this season, Anthony Davis is at 25, 27, and 28 million per, which for a superstar is chump change in this day and age, this NBA economy, because of the collective bargaining agreement that was signed and a new TV deal that's got a bunch of money coming the way of each individual owner. So you're LeBron James. If you really, really, really want to win a championship, why don't you tell Dan Gilbert in Cleveland you'll commit to the next 3 years? I'm telling you right now that if LeBron James said to Dan Gilbert, go out there and get Anthony Davis for me and I'll stay the next 3 years, I believe Dan Gilbert will exhaust every measure to get Anthony Davis. Can't say he'll definitively get Anthony Davis because the New Orleans Pelicans got to work with you and give him up. And I don't know what you have to give. You got to throw Kevin Love into the mix. Outside of Kevin Love, you put some parts with it, and I don't know if that would be enough for the New Orleans Pelicans. But if Anthony Davis insists on being let out, if you're willing to unload Kevin Love, you could possibly get a third team involved to make something happen. My point to you is that this all could potentially be contingent on LeBron James. Because what this really comes down to is LeBron James' refusal to commit to Cleveland past this year, which is ultimately what irks the nerves of Dan Gilbert, because once again, you're threatening to hold the organization hostage. And why should he commit to that? Now, I'd say, Dan Gilbert, LeBron James committing to you for years to come should have nothing to do with your decision to get Anthony Davis if you have a chance to get Anthony Davis. Because I got news for you. If LeBron James were to decide to up and leave, Anthony Davis ain't a bad cornerstone piece to have. If I'm Cleveland, I would want that. But I'm telling you right now, if LeBron made it clear he wanted Anthony Davis, and that got to Anthony Davis, which it would, and Cleveland was willing to do whatever it takes, I'm telling you, Cleveland will be willing to do whatever it takes. Whether they pull it off or not is contingent on what New Orleans would want. But Cleveland will be willing to do whatever it takes. I believe Boston has more assets than Cleveland to offer. But you never know. You just never know. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Chris in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A., good morning, good afternoon. Real quick, two things. I wanted to touch on the image problem and regarding the NBA and the NFL. Of course not. I don't agree. They have an image issue, but unfortunately, Stephen A., it's the world we live in. The black athlete, as you know, is under a different microscope. The whole Coach Tomlin thing, and I'm a Baltimore fan, so let me preface my comments by saying that I don't agree with it. You went down the list of his resume, and still they won him out. It's just sad. You remember a couple months ago, Stephen A., when Durant brought out the quote when he was saying if he wasn't dribbling a basketball, what would he be? Well, I think he knows what he would be. That's my first point.
Who's this he?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who's this he? Who are you talking about?
Kevin Durant, the comment he made a few months ago regarding if he wasn't dribbling a basketball, what would he be?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. I was saying, well, you never know because he is dribbling a basketball. So that's my first point. And my second point is about the whole Anthony Davis thing. I was listening to you in regards to Dan Gilbert not wanting to be held hostage. I really don't blame him because of the whole LeBron thing. But if he does happen to go to Cleveland, Stephen A., I have to disagree with you. I don't believe that's still enough to get them over the top with Golden State because the pieces around LeBron and Anthony are still not good enough because the guys don't put forth the effort and they're not willing to make the necessary sacrifices to get them over the top. And that's my opinion, though.
No, I think that LeBron with Anthony Davis is a boatload of problems for the Golden State Warriors. They do defend, make no mistake about it, because they're long and they're athletic and they move their feet and they get out and they're committed. But when you talk about Anthony Davis in combo with LeBron James, you're talking about two surreal, old-world talents that you're going to have to deal with. And I think the other parts around the Cleveland Cavaliers, you got to remember, it wouldn't be a situation right now where everybody wants and deserves a piece of the basketball. You know what? It's LeBron and Anthony Davis. And look, y'all, the rest of y'all figure out and play some damn defense. That's what it would be about. And you know what? You can't sit up there and say definitively because Golden State are such marksmen that they could shoot and they get it done. But let me tell you something right now. The road would be a hell of a lot tougher. And at the very least, it would be a pick'em. You can't definitively say that this Golden State's team would beat a LeBron and Anthony Davis team. You can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay, Stephen, real quick question there. Let's say they do get Anthony Davis. They get to the championship, they lose. Does LeBron stay?
If they get to the championship and lose?
And lose with Anthony Davis.
Well, that's the whole
point.
We don't know. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. We don't know. Only LeBron James knows that, which is what makes this all interesting.
That's